at any point when you speak to him with a problem. I put him like where I put Marquise.
You and Banks are not hanging out at the strip club.
50 Cent takes some responsibility for Lloyd Banks and toting Ayo.
What responsibility? Like a parent?
You're the leader.
What responsibility am I taking for him? Like, explain to me.
That you didn't encourage them to be independent sooner.
That's not true.
No, hold up. That narrative is off. Lloyd Banks is finally speaking up, and he's not sugarcoating a thing. After years of being labeled the lazy member of G Unit, Banks is flipping the whole storyline and calling out 50 Cent directly over the disrespect, the alleged lies, and the way he says their history has been rewritten. When G Unit first stormed the industry, it wasn't just 50 steering the ship. Banks brought the pen game. His cadence, his punchlines, that calm but dangerous presence, that was the spine of the crew. They were presented as brothers, at least that's how it looked from the outside. But once the spotlight got brighter, something shifted behind the scenes. 50 began tossing subtle and not so subtle shots, calling Banks unmotivated, claiming he didn't crave success enough, even clowning him in his book as he had mentally checked out of life. And through all that chatter, Banks kept silent. No press runs, no public back and forth, until now. In a recent interview, Banks finally peeled the curtain back. And listen to this, it's unfiltered. He said 50 wasn't around during some of the darkest moments of his life. That whole lazy tag, he says it's completely false. And here's the part people overlook. Banks never stopped grinding. He just refused to move on a schedule that wasn't his own.
Lloyd tattooed on his arm. He literally wears his laziness on his sleeve. He's always projected an unhelpful mixture of being both introverted and cocky at the same time.
While Lloyd Banks was quietly building his catalog and sharpening his pen, 50 Cent was out there reshaping the narrative in real time. And you already know 50 wasn't about to let that slide. He fired back quickly, tossing new shade at Banks like we were back in 2005. So now the big question is this: what really cracked that G Unit brotherhood? Was it betrayal, ego, or something deeper nobody wanted to admit? Is Banks finally stepping into overdue respect, or is 50 still pulling strings behind the curtain? Let's unpack the real story behind this fallout. For years, Lloyd Banks stayed silent. No media tour, no messy exchanges, no drama-filled timelines. But when 50 randomly threw another slick shot at him out of nowhere, Banks decided he'd had enough. This is something they see, Roy, Lloyd Banks. In a behind-the-scenes clip from one of 50's recent tour stops, he casually mentioned both Banks and Young Buck on Instagram and framed it like Banks had fallen off completely. Now listen to this. This is where the contrast shows. Banks don't live on the internet. He's not online tossing subs or chasing viral moments, but when the topic came up in a rare sit-down interview, he didn't dodge it, and things turned personal fast. Banks didn't just respond to the tension, he dismantled the lazy label 50 has been attached to him for years. He said it plainly, he wasn't lazy, he was grieving.
Temperament was definitely a little crazy. I'm not saying anything here that I haven't said to Banks directly. Another time I sat down with him, just when IG was starting to pop off, and tried to drop this gem on him. You gotta get on Instagram, I encouraged him. You can be a little awkward in person, so this is actually a better way for you to communicate with people. Nah, I don't want to do what he said. Why not? You can literally put punchlines under your pictures, make some new fans. Nah, that's corny, he told me. When Banks made that comment to me, I realized he had gone as far as he can go. In fact, my exact thought was, this is someone I can't invest another minute or dollar in.
Around the same time, 50 Cent was clowning him for lacking motivation, and Lloyd Banks had just buried his father. He was carrying real-life grief on his shoulders, and instead of support from his so-called brother, what did he receive? Public shots, interviews, book excerpts, memes. 50 turned it into a long-running narrative, dragging Banks like he was lazy and unambitious, when in reality, the man was trying to navigate one of the darkest seasons of his life.
Good lyricist. Among what are known as the punchline rappers who will end their bars with a funny or tongue-in-cheek line, Banks like to call himself the PLK, or Punchline King. I don't know if he's the king, but I'll give it to him that he's in the conversation. He is not, however, a great live performer, a stylish dresser, or a domineering personality. So if he doesn't check those 3 boxes, how is he going to get bigger and become the star?
That's not just rap beef anymore. That's betrayal, plain and simple. Yeah, 50 Cent tossed a little compliment out there, calling Lloyd Banks a solid lyricist, but hold up, he didn't leave it at that. He doubled back and basically said Banks didn't have the charisma, the hunger, or that superstar spark to really blow. But from Banks' side, listen to this, which didn't feel like a friendly critique. It felt like a straight ambush. Because when things got heavy in real life, 50 was nowhere around. No texts, no check-ins, not even a simple call. And that kind of silence hits harder than any diss record ever could. Banks is done with that tired, he fell off storyline. Since 2021, he's quietly delivered 3 full projects, the course of the Inevitable series. No radio push, no major label machine, no goofy viral antics, just bars on bars and consistency. He never quit rapping, he just stopped begging for industry validation. And that shift right there is where the tension really started brewing. Banks was never designed for the glossy promo circus. He's not chasing clout, he's not the flashy type, and he's definitely not trying to trend every single week. He stands on lyrics, legacy, and respect. That's who he's always been at his core. But in the 50 universe, if you're not amplifying the brand, you're expendable. Banks wasn't interested in playing background soldier forever, and 50 wasn't feeling that energy. To understand the weight of it, you have to remember Banks, 50, and Tony Yayo came up together in South Jamaica, Queens. This wasn't some industry setup, this was the block. Real childhood ties turned into real rap dreams. So when 50 exploded with Get Rich or Die Tryin', he brought the whole squad with him. But somewhere down the line, that brotherhood started cracking, and loyalty began looking like leverage. G-Unit wasn't just a rap crew, it was a movement. And when it came to pure lyrical firepower, Banks was the one fans leaned on, while 50 handled the hooks and the spotlight. No debate, Banks delivered that icy, surgical flow and slick wordplay that really anchored the unit. His mixtape run was legendary. Money in the Bank, the Cold Corner series, all straight pressure. Then boom, 2004 rolls around, and Banks drops The Hunger for More. That project went platinum in less than a month. On Fire, Karma, I'm So Fly, certified classics. At that moment, it felt like G-Unit couldn't be touched. 50 was running the charts, Banks was proving he could thrive solo, Yayo had his spotlight too. Then Young Buck and The Game stepped in and pushed the movement nationwide. They had the music scene on Smash, clothing lines moving, Reebok deals locked in, and even video games in the mix. And don't get it twisted, Banks wasn't just along for the ride, he helped build that empire brick by brick. His gritty tone and sharp punchlines stamped that East Coast authenticity on the whole brand. Even 50 admitted early on that Banks was one of the nicest with the pen. But once the fame started roaring too loud, the cracks got harder to ignore. Buck was out, Game flipped the narrative, and that so-called bulletproof brotherhood started looking shaky. Gradually, Banks drifted into the background, not because he lacked talent, but because the energy shifted. He was never the camera-chasing type, but now, girl, he was practically invisible.
Communication with Banks for a long period of time, right? He couldn't even tell you, like, at any point when you speak to him what the problem is. I put him, like, where I put Marquise.
You and Banks are not hanging out at the strip club.
No, he goes, though.
But you don't go.
No, I don't see me there. We went to Atlantic City. We was in it was a showcase. They expect a show to happen
Performance.
tonight. Yeah, like, yeah, we will see you at the show tonight. And I go, oh, they expecting a show. Like, I was like, yo, call all of them, tell them to come here. When I asked Banks, like, when you go to perform your shows, you don't do this song? Like, this is the hardest record on your album. And he's like, why? Because you want? I looked at it and I was like, trying to understand where he was coming from. He had been on my last record. He's like, I ain't been on your record, this and that. And I was like, so what? You don't have to be on none of my records. Like, me being on your records is the favor. I put you on a record with Eminem on my first album, fool. Don't nobody even know you. We were anticipating success, not as much success as we actually had. Mm-hmm. And it would have been sufficient if we had half.
The split between him and 50 didn't explode overnight. It was that quiet fade where the love just vanished. The G-Unit wave had crested and the unity started slipping. G-Unit went from moving like a tight squad to looking like solo acts all rocking the same logo. The bond was gone, and even 50 Cent admitted it. He straight up said too much mess went down behind closed doors, and a reunion? Forget it. So what set it off? Banks started disappearing from the spotlight. No press, no interviews, not even popping up at 50's big public moments. Fans saw it as straight-up disrespect, like he didn't care about the legacy. But hold up, behind the scenes, it was way messier than that. While Banks was stepping back, 50 was cranking up the shade. Interview after interview, sly shots dropped, spinning that same old story. Banks had the talent, sure, but zero hunger.
So when Biggie and Pac were both popping. So that makes sense that they still resonate with him so deeply. I can relate. I still love the music from when I was that age too. The difference is I haven't patterned my career after KRS-One and Kool G Rap. What would be the point of that? They were both incredible in their moment. But I've always been concerned about creating my own moment rather than copying theirs. Years ago, I told Banks to film a video of his life and post it on YouTube. Introduce people to his lifestyle. Let the camera follow him around for a while and see how he moves. Maybe something he says or does will create a spark, go viral, and then he'll have some heat around him again. What I didn't want him to do was sit there writing punchline after punchline and then grow resentful when no one seemed to care about his mixtapes anymore. They say insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Before adding Biggie and Pac didn't do that. They're dead, my man, I told him. They died before this stuff was even invented. And how do you know they wouldn't be posting on IG if they were alive? It was a line of thinking that really blew my mind. It suggested that if Tupac was alive, he'd still be wearing leather vests and red bandanas tied around his head, sending girls his beeper number. Or that Biggie would still be wearing Gucci sweaters and playing Mortal Kombat 2 every night. In Banks' case, a lot of his failure to grow as an artist is connected to his emotional composition. Banks grew up in the same neighborhood as me, but was never a part of it in the same way. I actually hustled with his father. Banks was more content staying on his porch and watching the world from there. There's nothing wrong with that, but it underscored a particular aspect of his personality. Banks wanted things to come to him, as opposed to going out and getting them for himself. That's not me trying to assassinate his character. The guy has Lazy Lloyd tattooed on his arm. He literally wears his laziness on his sleeve. He's always projected an unhelpful mixture of being both introverted and cocky at the same time. The kind of person most comfortable being a big fish in a small pond. If Banks was hanging out in the studio with a bunch of unknown MCs, he'd be very confident. He'd enjoy being the center of attention. But if I suddenly showed up, he'd feel like he got demoted. He'd be bitter. He didn't feel like the center of attention anymore. I get it. I can take up a lot of the air in the room. The problem is that he'd never fight to get some of that oxygen back, which is exactly what a star is supposed to do. I believe a true star must possess 4 fundamental abilities: create great material, be a high-energy live performer, have a unique appearance, and possess a strong personality. Tupac had all 4. So does Mary J. Blige. Chris Brown, too. If I'm being honest in evaluating Banks, he possesses maybe
that he didn't get the business side of things, that he refused to adapt. At one point, 50 Cent even straight up said Banks had the bars, but zero hustle. And he roasted him for staying off social media, like keeping it low-key was some kind of crime. But listen, that's just Banks being Banks. He's always been private. He wasn't out here chasing clout or playing Hollywood politics. He just wanted the music to do the talking. To some fans, that made him authentic. But to 50, that made him dead weight, a liability. Then came Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter, and 50 went all in with the shade. He said Banks and Tony Yayo were stuck in the past, refusing to evolve. He called Banks out by name, claiming he'd gotten too comfortable, wasn't willing to grind, and wasn't leveling up. Basically, he painted Banks as a wasted opportunity, a lyrical powerhouse who fumbled his moment.
But when he came to the actual room, we talked about I think I irritated him earlier playing with the entourage. Yeah. With MO and them, like, cause I look.
50 Cent's book was the first time he publicly put distance between himself and Lloyd Banks. No sugarcoating, no holding back. And even though Banks didn't fire back, fans are convinced he quietly replied on his track, Stranger Things. That song carried real pain, with bars way too personal to be random. This right here is where their worlds collide. For 50, being a superstar is everything: money, power, attention. But Banks, he doesn't equate fame with success. For him, success is doing what you love, providing for your family, and keeping your peace. That's the path he picked. And let's be real, Banks has always embraced his chill vibe. He even inked Lazy Lloyd on himself, owning it fully.
Because I find betrayal so painful, I put incredible thought and consideration into the people who surround me. As I detailed in this chapter, when I was first coming up, I made a mistake of confusing loyalty and location. It's a miscalculation a lot of people make. Wanting to believe that just because someone is from the same streets as you, that they're going to have your back forever. I learned the hard way that that's not the case. I think everyone's a little afraid of being too trustful, but I'm definitely worse than most. In my life, I feel like I've been betrayed by people I deserve better from. People I've given money to, opportunities to, love to, even life to. Because of that, for a long time, the only thing I had faith in was money. I only trusted the paper that says, "In God we trust." This is one of the reasons the theme of betrayal is so prominent in my show Power. It's an issue that's always on my mind, so much so that I even called the last season the final betrayal.
He's mentioned it in interviews. So yeah, he's naturally chill, but don't get it twisted, he's still grinding. Banks just didn't want all the extra baggage that comes with the spotlight, the politics, the fake friends, the non-stop hustle for validation. He was here for one thing, the music.
Son wants to sit down with you.
No, he doesn't. See, Charlamagne, you would call me. You don't call TMZ to say you want to sit down. Think about it, man. You know, you want some attention. And it's okay, you can have as much of that as you want. You know, it's just like he's been trained to believe what you see him say in that interview, that what he was saying, he's been trained to believe that for a long time, bro. Like, you don't just wake up and say, "Oh, well, I don't believe what I've been believing forever."
But never be open to it?
No, I don't think the relationship works. Look, for a long time, Coleman, I went running behind him. I went places that he went, and he left the place.
But to 50 Cent, that mindset hit like a punch in the gut. He took it as a lack of hunger, a chance gone to waste. And here's where it gets real. 50 runs by one rule above all: loyalty.
Like, if I don't give him something that he wanted murder, then he's going to go back to doing what we did. You remember saying that to me?
I don't remember.
You don't remember saying that? Yeah, tell him, you be telling Vlad all kind of
I don't want to get into all that.
My look better than Vlad. You think you tell me the thing? My nice.
They don't even look like the same dude to me
nice
on
for them
Vlad.
stories.
Murph, real shit coming out.
He said it straight in his book. He'd rather face a bullet than deal with betrayal. He paints himself as the one who rides for his people, no questions asked. So when someone he swears he went to war for starts pulling back, in 50's world, that's the ultimate betrayal, worse than death. And that's the cut that hits the deepest, because from 50's perspective, Banks didn't just fade, he walked away without a word. No sit down, no warning, just silence. To someone like 50, that isn't just disrespect, it's disloyalty. Especially after all the years he says he poured into Banks' career. But Banks, he sees it differently. To him, it wasn't betrayal, it was self-preservation. He felt trapped, like every move was being dictated by someone who only saw him as a product, not a person. Behind the fame, Banks was wrestling with grief, burnout, and wondering if the music was even worth it anymore. And while 50 was making headlines, Banks was grinding quietly, healing, regrouping. Still, 50 never let his name drop out of rotation. From interviews to podcasts to the book, Banks stayed in the spotlight, sometimes praised, but always with that sting of disappointment. For fans, it's been a roller coaster. One day, 50 calls Banks a top-tier lyricist. Next, he writes him off as a lost cause. It's like 50 can't decide if he misses him or wants him erased. And even now, with Banks dropping consistent albums, proving he still has fire, 50 hasn't reached out. No reunion offers, no real reconnection, just passive-aggressive jabs. So the question lingers, was Banks wrong for walking away quietly, or was 50 wrong for turning their bond into a brand war? Whatever the answer, that brotherhood chapter feels officially closed. See, with 50 Cent, it's never just about Lloyd Banks. To him, betrayal is unforgivable, period. This is the same man who cut off his own son, Marcusy, is over loyalty. If he's willing to ice out his own blood, what chance did his crew ever really have? Look at Tony Yayo, day one G-Unit soldier, 50's longtime right hand. Even he caught heat when whispers of disloyalty surfaced. And it didn't matter if it was true or just rumors, 50 made sure the world knew. Then there's young Buck. Buck helped shape that early G-Unit sound. But when 50 caught a whiff of disrespect, he didn't just kick him out. He made it loud, messy, and public. And who could forget the game? He was G-Unit's golden ticket for a moment, but when the fallout hit, it exploded into one of the most notorious beefs in hip-hop history. Years later, when 50 saw that reunion photo, Banks and Game side by side, that was the final straw. He posted a cryptic message, then deleted it. What do you see when you look at this picture? I see confusion. Maybe it's just me. I'm cancerish. Don't grow old with me. I never chase trouble, but I don't run from it either. I'm different. The question isn't how I feel, it's how Loey Mac feels. Some things are better left alone. So now is your turn. Was 50 protecting his empire or torching his own legacy? Make sure to subscribe, like, share, and drop your thoughts in the comments below.